I mean, I think the present of music it's definitely an interesting time. In the 1960s, right? There was no social media. There's really no media that really can push your music out. It was really just about producing good music. Elvis Presley, all he had to worry about was slicking the hair back and writing a good song that would appease the 18-year-old fans he had. And now it's just so.
Yeah. I lay on the scale, you gotta glow, you gotta glow. She had my attention, she gotta know.
I'd like to welcome everyone to another episode of the Let's Get Podcast. I'm your host Zeke, and in this episode I have Alexander to speak about writing about music. I do have a content warning for English language in this episode, and hope you have a nice day and enjoy the show. I'd like to welcome you to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being interested. So, the first question I'd like to ask is, what would your origin story be, and how would you like to represent it?
I really fell in love with music when I first started playing basketball in second grade. I moved around a lot when I was younger. I moved to Charlotte, Atlanta. And one of the big things that really helped me connect with a lot of people on my basketball teams was music. And it was really a big thing that I grew up on, specifically hip hop music. With a lot of these basketball teams, we have kids from the west side of Atlanta, north side, south side, all different areas. And the one big thing that really brought us together was music. And that was really a powerful medium for me, and has really caused me to pursue this giant writing and coding related to music. And I think the best thing that would represent that is an album, and specifically an album like Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. It's such a overall incredible album. And one of the big things with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy was that he was bringing together so many people to create the album. And I think that's really what's defined me from my basketball years, bringing all these people together with music, and is what I want to do in the future as well.
Nice. So let's stay on that for a second. So you say music, so like you say you fell in hip hop and everything. So like what about it kind of like helps you connect? Is like the story that the artists tell, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, every artist talks about something that's relatable. They talk about relationships, the modern world, politics, all that stuff. And for me, music was really that opener for a lot of the conversations we had. A lot of the kids on my team were completely different backgrounds, completely different lives. And music was really that thing that we all had in common. And, liking the new Kanye album or liking the new, NBA Youngboy album was that one thing that we could really all talk about and enjoy, and really brought us together.
Got it. And since I help you with moving and everything, you say you want to make an album, so you say you want to bring people together. What would kind of be like the connecting theme of that album to bring people together?
Creativity is such a big thing for everyone. And creativity is really just an essential human aspect. And I think almost everything we do involves creativity in some way, whether that's making a podcast, whether that's writing, or even basketball, where you're creating plays and thinking of how to win and being creative with that type of stuff. And I think creativity is that one big human connector where everyone can be involved and everyone has their own type of ideas from their personal lives and just their backgrounds. And I think creativity is that one big aspect that has caused me to connect with so many great writers, whether that be at Earmik or other companies, and connect with a lot of the artists I talk to as well.
Creativity. And sticking to creativity, you chose writing to be part of the music. Why did you choose writing?
Personally, I'm not a great artist. I can't sing at all. My singing would definitely hurt some ears. It's not good. And so, but I always had this incredible joy for music, and always had this great passion for music. And I really want to contribute to music. It played such a essential role for me when I was younger, that I really wanted to give back to it in some way. And I just found writing to be the perfect medium for me. I really found it a really rewarding experience to talk to an artist, talk to them about their music, and try to help them in the career. And I think writing has definitely lost some of its lust in the past 10 years. Everything has moved more to audio and video, but just being involved in industry and talking to artists is just it's so rewarding for me. I really love doing it. And I think, I really want to give back, and it's for my, I wrote a book called The History of Hip Hop, that just touched about hip hop and the origins of it. And, it's really been a big theme in my life to try to give back to music in any way possible. And whether that be writing about its history or helping artists that are going to be coming up in the future.
Got it. Got it. And then with writing, have you learned a lot more about music with your writing?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, when I first started writing, I didn't really have a great music knowledge, I would say. I didn't really know about hi-hats and 808s and a lot of the production type things that go behind music. All I really knew was I'd listen to a B.O.B. song in fifth grade and say, oh, that's pretty good. And and that was really a big thing for me. And so once I started writing about music more, I started really learning about it. And I was able to talk a lot better about the things that really make music good. A lot of the things that a lot of general listeners don't listen to, such as the production, the layering of ad libs and production, the intricate details that make a song good was what really allowed me to write better about music in the past couple of years.
Got it. Got it. Now with music, more of music in the writing. So how do you like approach writing about music? What comes first?
Um, just pure listening in the beginning. I really think you have to think about music from that initial listen, but you can't take all of your opinions from the initial listen, because, albums such as Kanye West's Yeezus, right? When everyone first listened to that, everyone thought it was garbage. And now 5-10 years later, right, we all think it's an absolute masterpiece. And it was it was like that initial spark that created this giant amount of new artists such as Travis Scott, Playboy Cardi. And so I think it's really important to take a first listen and write down what you feel, but then to go back to it and really dive deep into the music, and to really think about, is this a bad song or is this a good song? And to really just think about the production, the lyrics, and just the overall feeling of the song. And that's how I really try to write about music.
So it's more like details, like, okay, you have your initial reaction, but things grow on you over time, and you also change.
Of course, a lot of great reviewers have talked about this. Anthony Fantano, he's a really big music reviewer in the space. He does reviews on pretty much every single album that's been out there. And he's actually gone back and re-listened to some albums that he gave bad ratings to. And he said he's liked them more. So I think even if you don't like an album in the beginning, sometimes it can grow on you. And sometimes you can come back and say, wow, like I was wrong. And I think that's really important for a lot of music writers to do, because, not everyone is right all the time.
It's a lost art in these days. It's okay to change your mind, change your opinion.
Of course, the initial reaction is not always the right reaction.
Yeah. So I always wonder, like, what kind of separates a critic from somebody else who has an opinion? I always wonder about that.
The big difference between a critic and just a normal listener, I would say, is that just time. Any listener can become a critic with enough time and enough writing. Um, when I first started writing, of course, I didn't know what I was listening for. I didn't know what I was writing about. I think that's with a lot of people, just podcasts as well. Like when you first start making podcasts, you don't know what you're doing and you're trying to figure it out. And then as you continue to make more episodes and interview more people, you start to really figure out what to do. And I think that's the real difference between critics and fans. Critics just have so much experience with listening to music, to listening to music intently, and to listening to the specific parts of it. And I think any fan can honestly become a critic with enough time.
Cool. It's all about just sharpening your tool, putting your 10,000 hours in, and seeing, and just getting better at articulating your point.
Yeah, of course.
Because a lot of times people say this sucks, but they're not saying that's not like a complete statement or sentence. It's more of certain parts of it does either work for them or doesn't work in total.
Yeah. I mean, like on Twitter, right? You can see thousands of tweets about the new Playboy Cardi album sucking, and it's just that. It's just like, this album sucks, I don't like it. But when you see like a critic's tweet or a critic's article, it's going to be much more in depth about this song, this production, this instrument in this song sucks. And that's where the real difference is between a critic and a fan, because a critic will really go in depth into their explanation as why they don't like a song or an album.
Got it. Sticking on that, can you listen too much? Can you like get too deep into a song as a critic where you're listening too hard and you forget to enjoy it? And then that can
Oh,
like affect your rating?
yeah. I mean, 100%. Sometimes, when you listen to a song on repeat over and over and over again, you can start to get bored of it, of course. And so then you start to lose that sort of initial feeling, because, feeling is so important in music. It's really what surrounds a lot of the Drake albums, the Kanye albums, that make them so great. And I think the initial feeling is so important, and you can't lose it. You have to, when you're reviewing an album and you're really listening deeply to it, you have to keep that initial listen in mind.
Got it. And then, so gonna go back to music. So who's your favorite artists and why?
I have to say Kanye. I mean, he's such a controversial figure, but there isn't that many artists that can completely change their sound over 20 years with 5 different albums and still remain relevant. There's been great artists like Andre 3000 and NBA Youngboy, but the difference between those artists and a Kanye West is that they're sticking to what they know. They're going to stick to this type of music they know, and they're not really going to go outside of it. But with a Kanye West, he's going to completely change his sound. It's going to sound nothing like his last album. And, he's going to put out there, he's going to say, I don't care. This is what I want to pursue. And if it doesn't hit mainstream, then that's okay with me, because music is really what's important to me, not getting the dollars.
Nice. Stick with Kanye. I say my favorite albums of Kanye are College Dropout,
Mm-hmm.
Graduation, and My Twisted Dark Fantasy.
Mm-hmm. I think, yeah, I mean, those are all really great albums. I mean, I'm really excited because, I think Donda, he's really coming into a new space after the divorce with Kim Kardashian. And so I'm excited to hear those ideas on how coronavirus affected him and how his divorce affected him. I think it's going to be a really great album.
Yeah. It's like that passion, like that energy is back.
Yeah, of course. I mean, he's, a lot of these artists nowadays, they're old. And so they sort of need that fire to get under them. Drake is 33, 34, something like that. Like he's an old timer now. And so a lot of these artists, they need that fire underneath them to really start creating art like they did in their 20s, like with College Dropout.
Yeah, because it's like when you're on the come up, you're on your back against a wall, so you're trying to fight and then once you make it, then you try to find reasons to keep fighting.
Yeah. And I think I've really been excited about Drake and the whole Drake Kanye West rivalry between them, because I think, it's really, I mean, the big reason why Kanye West then dropped Donda, I personally feel, is that he's seen all these tweets about Drake's new album being this crazy 10 out of 10 album, and he doesn't want to drop an album that's not going to be a 10 out of 10. And so I think that type of rivalry between them is going to be super good for both of their projects coming out.
Yeah, friendly rivalry is always good.
Yeah.
I would say my favorite artist is Jay-Z.
Yeah, I mean,
most.
I think I listened to his most recent album. I think it was like 444, and it was a super good album. I think, Jay-Z sort of in that, he's in the business bag now. He's really in investments and business and all that, but he can still really, he could definitely put out a project that's good.
Yeah, definitely. And so, in your journey with music and everything, like hip hop is such a young music genre, and it's always changing. How do you feel about the changes?
I'm excited. I'm excited for the changes. One of the big things I want to see in the future of hip hop is this sort of experimentation with different genres. You saw with Lil Nas X with country music of all genres. And I think more artists that dive into these other genres and try to pull them into what rap music is right now could be super interesting. Country rap, punk rap, rock rap, a lot of these different meshes of genre could be super interesting for the future of music, and specifically for rap.
Definitely. Because when J. Cole spoke to was it Lil Pump? He talked about how he was at first resistant to the change in rap, but then he had to sit back and realize that everything changes. Mm-hmm. This is time and place for everything.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, a lot of the guys that have been in the game for 10, 15 years, they don't want rap to change because they've been in this sweet spot where they're at the top of their game, they're at the top of the genre, and everyone wants to listen to them. But, when you have Lil Pump, 6ix9ine, these artists coming in and doing meme rap and getting absolutely famous from it, a lot of these old heads don't like to see that. But I think it's good for the genre. I think it brings in sort of that new type of music that can be meshed into, something like a new Drake album or something like that.
Definitely. And to go and continue with rap, when you read the history of rap, what kind of your reactions to it?
Rap is such a complex genre in its history. There's so many influences that really brought rap into what it is today. And I think one of the big things that surprised me was just how hated T-Pain was in his day. I mean, he was creating this super revolutionary auto-tune. And now we look back on it and we say, wow, T-Pain was really this revolutionary. But at the time when I was doing all this research, they were saying Usher was coming up to T-Pain and he was rooting the music industry. And so I think a lot of creatives that are really pushing the genre get hated in the beginning. But as time moves on, you really see how valuable they were to the industry as a whole.
Even rap was like that too, when there was rap versus disco at the time. Mm-hmm. And then they'll get kicked out of the disco clubs and then kicked out of the parks and everything. And then.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, rap in the beginning was not a lot of people didn't look at rap as a valuable genre until recently, last 20, 30 years. And so I think a lot of, rap has really become this mainstream genre. I think rap may even overpass a lot of the pop albums that are coming out. And so it's really interesting to see how rap started in this super small Brooklyn party, and now it's become this worldwide phenomenon where you can hear UK drill and Latin pop and Latin rap. And so it's definitely been a journey for rap, and it'd be super interesting to see how it evolves in the future as well.
Yeah, it was a Bronx party, I believe it was. Yeah, Kool Herc's.
Yeah.
This is just in case somebody comments no, it was the Bronx.
Yeah, so it started in the Bronx, and you know, initially it was more around this whole disco scene, and they brought in these people to just sort of put on ad libs almost onto the dance music, and to really just pump up a lot of the dancers to get involved with the parties. And then a lot of the dancers were like, "Shoot, I like the freaking people doing the ad libs more than the actual music." And then they brought these kids on, and they were doing 3-minute sets instead of 20-second sets. That's really just how rap started. And then because a lot of the cassettes and radio play just became this giant phenomenon.
It was always cool how it was young people because like all revolutions, like protests, is always like young people or the ones making the change.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things I really liked about, early rap was it was sort of this medium for a lot of young people to really express a lot of the things that were going on with them. And the Bronx were a really tough time in New York history, especially for minorities at the time. And rap was really this medium where they could talk about and talk to the mainstream about all the struggles that were being put against them. And you can see that sort of trend continue with Ice Cube, NWA, with Kendrick Lamar. And it's really been a big trend with rap music to be this sort of medium for change. And I think it's been a great medium for a lot of minorities to talk about the struggles that are going on in the communities, and to talk about and to sort of express that to some of the suburbs that may not experience that.
Yeah, the thing about that is like a lot of songs are all timeless, and that sucks because that means the problems are still going on.
hmm I mean, I yeah, it's there's definitely been. I mean, it's a better world than it was in the 1960s. I
Yeah,
think everyone can agree with that. But there's always room for change, and there's always improvement. And we've gone a long way from the 60s, but we have a long way to go in the future as well.
yeah. And then I want to see your opinion on like timeless music because a lot of people say like you can listen to like the '90s, like the most popular, the ones always brought up '90s rap. It always sounds
hmm
timeless. And I wonder if
hmm
like the music today will sound timeless in the future.
Yeah, I mean, the '90s is definitely a classic genre. It created so much good music and really laid the the foundation for a lot of artists like 21 Savage, the Migos, a lot of these mainstream artists that we see today. And I think in 10, 20 years, when we have the next batch of great hip hop artists, we'll be looking back on the Drake albums and the Kanye West albums and the Travis Scott albums, and really say, these are classic albums that really laid the foundation for the next 20, 30 years.
Let's see.
We shall. I mean, Rodeo from Travis Scott has definitely laid the foundation for a lot of artists now, with that sort of trap, rock influence, and that definitely the auto tune as well on top of it. So we will definitely see which albums stand the test of time.
And with like writing, go back to writing. Do you ever feel like pressure to like to not be like to not sound like a fan, to not sound like too much of a fan of an artist, and to be critical?
Yeah, that's one of the biggest things with writing, and specifically with music writing. You know, I'm into a lot of artists. Kanye West, Drake, some underground artists that are coming up, like Don Tolliver and Dominic Fike, some of those type of artists. And when you write about them in an article, you have to be candid. You can't just say, "Oh, I love Travis Scott, and so I'm just gonna write rave review on his album, even if it sucks." And so you can definitely like an artist, but you have to come into it with a complete open mind on it might be bad or it might be good. And if you come into writing like that, then you can give important information to readers, because readers don't want to read about Travis Scott album being great because, oh, I'm buddies with Travis Scott's manager or something. They really want to listen, and they want to read about reviews that are real. and we'll give them a deeper meaning and a deeper knowledge about the album as well.
And with writing, did you get better with time, or did you like learn from stuff from school?
You know, with school, there's not a lot of music writing, and a lot of the writing is fiction. So, I mean, I think there was definitely some aspects of school that helped me with writing, specifically with reading books and then analyzing them, because that really carries over to a lot of the listen to music and then analyze it. And so, I think school definitely did help, but I think the most important factor for me was just writing 200 articles about music. And I think that was what really helped me, sharpen my craft and continue to work on my writing as well.
Got it. I was thinking about like literary devices and rhetorical devices that you have to use in writing, and be like, okay, cool, this time I'm hooking the reader, see how to tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely learned a lot of the whole writing aspects from other writers. I think that's the best thing to do with writing, just to really go back on your writing that wasn't good and really analyze why it wasn't good. A lot of people want to look at their best writing and say, wow, I was so good on that. But I think the most important thing for basketball, for writing, for podcasting, is to look on those episodes that were garbage and you look back on and say, wow, this was just awful. And then really try to dive into why was it bad and how can I rewrite it and make it better in the future, and really make sure to look at those mistakes and to just not make them again.
Yeah, I remember freshman year of college, it was like you know you're growing when you're looking back at your writing and you don't like it. Even if you like it at the time, you don't like it now.
Yeah, exactly. A lot of my writing that, I started writing about music in 10th grade. And, I look back at those writings and they were just awful. And I feel like in 3, 4, or 5 years, I'll look back at the writing I'm doing right now and say, wow, that was just awful. And so I think it's important to always be improving and to always be looking back on what mistakes you're making and how you can improve.
Cool. Lost my train of thought. Getting it back. So with music, do you ever feel like when you listen to music, like I think I asked earlier about you go too deep into like the critical part, but then you forget like just to be a fan sometimes and just listen to music just to listen to it.
Yeah, I mean, you can see that with a lot of festivals as well. Writers a lot of times go to festivals and they sit backstage and they have their little notepad out or they have their phone out and they're writing, you know, this artist screwed up this set, this artist did a bad job performing at Lollapalooza or Rolling or some of those other festivals. But I think one of the most important things at a festival or just music in general is to really be in the crowd and to really feel that sort of energy that the artist brings off. Because a lot of times, Playboy Cardi can completely screw up a verse on one of his songs at a festival, but everyone in the crowd is jumping up crazy and the energy is really, really good. And so I think that's really what makes, a performer good. It's not technically, oh, is he getting every single verse right? Is he bringing in the right features? It's really just energy that they're able to bring to the crowd in general.
Got it. It's that feeling sometimes, just like that's that vibe.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it goes back to that whole feeling thing. Music is about feeling, and I think it's always important to uh, realize the feeling that artists give off, whether that be something sad, something happy, and something more deep and personal.
Mhm. Cool. And let's go back to music. We talked about Kanye, talked about Jay-Z, talked about the future, talked about the past. Let's talk about the present. How is
Yeah,
Go ahead.
go ahead. Yeah, I mean, I think the present of music it's definitely an interesting time. In the 1960s, right? You couldn't there was no social media. There's really no media that really can push your music out. It was really just about producing good music. Elvis Presley, all he had to worry about was slicking the hair back and writing a good song that would appease the 18-year-old fans he had. And now it's so different. I think Lil Nas X is a great example of this. He's creating good music, but the most important factor of him in his career is his marketing. He has absolutely mastered how to market his music and how to start controversy around his music. And if you're like a modern artist coming up, I talked about this before, but it's 50% about creating good music and it's 50% about marketing. And that marketing brings in social media and it brings in YouTube and it brings in, reaching out to blogs like Earmik. And it's just so important. There's a million songs put out on Spotify like a day or something crazy like that. And the most important thing now is to show that you're different from those other million songs. And so it's important to be creating music so you can stand out from the crowd, but to also be able to market yourself as standing out from the crowd.
Yeah. And now learn how T-Pain had that viral clip of be different. He heard everything already. Just be you.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want to sound like the Migos have already created music. You don't want to sound like the Migos. And so I think it's important to be able to push forward what the music industry is right now, and to also be able to sort of talk to artists, talk to other writers, to get you and your music out there.
Like definitely is able to just keep people talking about him, good or bad.
Yeah. Good or bad. I mean, he's that whole publicity thing where bad publicity is completely fine with it as long as people know his name.
Mm-hmm. And people don't understand that he's playing them.
Yeah, I mean that's the craziest part of it. Like he comes out on Twitter and he's like surprised that people didn't like his like devil shoes with like a drop of blood of them. Like he was like surprised by that. But I mean, he knew what he was doing. He knew this was going to be this whole giant lawsuit from Nike and all over every single newspaper in the world. With Old Town Road, he really started it there. He put it on the country playlist. He put it on the country genre, because he knew people weren't going to accept him as country. And so when he got taken off the country Billboard Top 100, he was probably jumping up and down for joy because that's exactly what he wanted, because that really sparked Old Town Road becoming this mainstream massive pop hit. And I think that's, he's been absolutely incredible at really stirring controversy around his singles, whichever they may be.
Yeah, it's always been like that. I think I've always been like that in media of just get people to talk, get people there and let them do the talking for you.
Yeah, I mean, he's so good at it. He's so good at it. And I think he makes good music. I think his music is pretty solid. Obviously it's not any Kendrick Lamar, but I would say he's better at marketing than Kendrick Lamar. Kendrick Lamar really just lets the music speak for him. And Lil Nas X is just so good at that, really going to CNN and all those massive media companies and getting his name out there.
And the media companies kind of need the social media, to feed off the social media to then stay relevant. So it all works out in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I read this article about Lil Nas X, and he basically said that, instead of working on his music, he worked on his Twitter. So he got his Twitter up to 30K followers, 50K followers, and he really started to get super knowledgeable how songs get promoted and how songs blow up. And, the first thing he did with a lot of his songs was put them on Twitter, but he would just say, hey, like, go check out my song. It would get like 2 likes and no one would care. And then he started bringing in this whole meme culture. He posted Old Town Road, which no one knew at the time. And he posted a meme along with it. And the meme attached to the song blew up. And then everyone was like, oh, like, let me go click on this song because it's attached to the meme. And that was really where he started to get his initial plays and how he got it charting on the country playlist.
Just genius. It's just knowing what you're good at and just going 100% into it.
Yeah, I mean, he knows he's so good at social media, and he leans completely into it. And I think he's gotten to the point where he can bring in a lot of the music experts that he needs with production, with lyricism, and a lot of that type of stuff that he needs to go along with his social media. But you know, even even at the current time, his biggest aspect, his biggest attribute is his social media skills.
They say word of mouth is the best marketing, and he causes word of mouth by having people talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then everyday people are going to see it randomly on their timeline and be like, what is this?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't think you could find one person that hasn't heard about him or hasn't listened to Old Town Road. He really was good at getting his name out there and doing every single thing to get his name out on social media. He just released his new song with Jack Harlow, where it was like he was going through prison, and then like there was this scene of where like they were all naked or whatever in the shower or something. And he released some video recently where he said it was uncensored, and then it was just a giant Rick roll, because like people would click on the video to see the uncensored version of the shower scene or whatever, and it was just like a little loading screen the whole time. And he like completely got like 50,000 tweets about it, and like continued that sort of social media marketing that he's so good at.
And we can't go out saying that Soldier Boy was the originator, just in case you see this clip.
I know he would come on here and be like, I started all that. But yeah, I mean, God, he's also so good at marketing as well. I listened to this interview with him, and he said that when no one knew him, he would used to go on Napster. On Napster, you could change the song title of a lot of the songs. And so he would put his song out there, and instead of putting the actual song title with like whatever Soldier Boy, right, he would put like a fake song title of some big time song, and they would click on it, and it's like, oh, this isn't Kanye West's new album. This is some random guy I don't know. And then start listening to it, and they're like, oh shoot, like this is actually a pretty good song. And that was really how he started getting this sort of traction with his career. And I think he's super smart with a lot of stuff he does. And he's definitely in the whole meme culture. I think he definitely knows what he's doing with a lot of stuff.
Yeah. I want to call on the podcast, like I saw everything, like, you right.
Like, yeah, I mean, he's like, I put the first video game out there. I put the first song out there. Like, I started Drake, and I was like, he has a point at some of this stuff.
Definitely. And then I guess we could talk about Earmik and how you got there.
Yeah, I mean, I started writing for my own blog called ATL Vibes. I live in Atlanta, so I was like, oh shoot, like I'm in 10th grade, let me start ATL Vibes, right? And so I started writing on that. I wrote about 50 articles or something like that. And then, I started looking at other websites because I was really in the whole industry or whatever, and knew about sort of these websites. And I started reaching out to some of the editors and being like, hey, like, would love to contribute to your website and that type of stuff. And so I reached out to Earmik. They were like, sure, like, we'd love to have you on. And, I was in 10th grade at the time, and I was like, wow, this is crazy. And so, I started writing for them in around my summer of 10th grade and around 11th grade. And I've written for them for the past 2 years or so, about 20, 30 plus articles. And I think the biggest thing that was, real eye opener for them was, when I was with ATL Vibes writing my own stuff, I was really just having to reach out to artists to get their song, their bios and things like that. And now, I'm getting 50 emails a day from PR people trying to send me their songs for Earmik. And I think that was definitely pretty crazy to see. My email has definitely gotten sold on one of these lists because Jesus, like I'm getting a ridiculous amount of emails a day. Like the thing is with a lot of these PR people, they don't understand is like, you send me an email, there's almost no chance I'm gonna be able to read it because you're one of 50 that day. And so I think a lot of the good things with PR for music PR is to reach out to them personally. I think a lot of the most successful stuff um, with PR people reaching out to me was through Instagram, through Twitter, and stuff like that. Because when you reach out to me through Instagram or Twitter, you know, it's more unique. Like I know you're not just sending a batch email out. I know some writers don't like it. They have this sort of idea that don't come to my home. They think of Instagram and Twitter as like my home, and don't DM me and stuff like that. But personally, I like that better than just a batch email.
Personal touch, that it's at least a real effort on the other side.
Yeah, exactly. Because they really want to get on the platform. They're specifically trying to find your Instagram. My Instagram isn't even on Earmik, so they're combing through Instagram. They're coming through Twitter to try to find you, and it just feels more personal, and it feels a lot better than just an email and sending me an email from my email address that's on probably 30 websites already.
Is this start writing for them? Did you feel like your writing changed in any particular way, or is that you're just you?
Yeah, I mean, my writing has definitely changed. Earmik really prides himself on short form articles that inform you about up and coming artists, and I think my writing in the beginning was definitely long. A lot of my sentences were super long, and my writing now it's really more punchy. It's much shorter. It's really getting to the point, which I think has definitely helped my writing as a whole. Because readers don't want to go through 600 words of fillers, right? They want to get to the meat of why the song is either good or bad. And I think that's really helped me to improve my music writing overall.
When we first started writing for them, were you scared, or were you just more excited about this is a good opportunity?
I was definitely scared. I'll tell you that now. Because when you first start putting those articles in, they're not like they will remove articles. Like if they don't like an article you submit, they will decline it. And so in the beginning, I took a lot of time to really make sure all of the articles were top quality. And as I've started and continued writing for them, I've sort of understood what they like to see in their website. And so now it's sort of like easy. When I submit an article, it almost always gets accepted. But in the beginning, I was so scared. I was like, oh shit, like I'm in 11th grade. Like I could they totally know, like, because I never really told them, I never told them how old I was or what grade I was in. They were just more interested about the writing I was doing. They read my articles, they liked what I was doing. And I could be in middle school and writing the same type of articles, they would be happy. So I think I was definitely scared that, they were not going to like my writing and they were going to kick me off, but didn't happen, fortunately.
That's good. That's all that growth. Just sometimes I take that chance, but we'll see what it is. It is what it is.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that's, a lot of the things with journalism, you just got to take those shots. Right now I'm writing for Earmik. Hopefully one day I'll be writing for Rolling Stone or Complex or something like that. But really taking those shots on sending those stories, sending those pitches to a lot of other websites is really important for writers in general.
And let's stick on this before we end. So when we do connect with somebody on like a PR person on what to write, how do you kind of choose the person to write about, and what do you write about the artist?
Yeah, I mean the big thing that's really changed over the 2 years I've been writing for Earmik is that I'm really good at listening to a song for 20 seconds and almost immediately knowing if it's good or bad. And I think a lot of general fans can listen to an album of a couple songs and know if it's going to be good or bad. And so usually when I'm going to be like, when I want to write about an article or for Earmik, I'll comb through a lot of the emails or the DMs I've gotten and listen to a song for a little bit and know like, okay, let me listen to the whole song because I like what they're trying to do on this. And so with a lot of the PR stuff, the biggest thing. They add a lot of information to the emails and the DMs and stuff, but the biggest thing is just, is the song good or not? And PR person is going to come out and tell you, hey, I'm sending you an email, this song sucks, don't listen to it. You have to listen to all these songs and really tell, is it good or is it bad? And there's a lot of songs out there, but there are some artists that I look for in particular that I've sort of known, Peachy Rascals, some other artists like that. And so I think the biggest thing when you get emails from PR people is just, you gotta comb through. You gotta see if it's good or bad.
Got it. So it's been 40 minutes. So the last question I'll ask is, what would you name your origin story?
Um, I think I would go from the whole Drake song, started from the bottom. I think, I started from ATL Vibes, which was this WordPress blog where I was writing crappy articles and just sitting in my room, listening to all this music. Started from the bottom of where this whole music journalism is. And I'm really trying to continue on this whole journalism thing, this whole exploration of music. And I think, hopefully, 0 to 100, started from the bottom, all those songs, try to get to the top of what all this music journalism is. And, I just really want to share my love for music with a bigger audience. So as I continue with writing, that's the real goal, to write for the biggest audience possible.
Nice. And you can share any social medias, any links you want people to find you.
Yeah, sure. My Instagram is just alexander.zwerner, my last name, ZWERNER. And I'm working on a project right now. It's called Beatly Music, just beatlymusic.com, basically like Rotten Tomatoes for music. So yeah, definitely go check out my articles on Earmik, go check out Beatly Music. Yeah, that's about it.
Nice. Well, thank you again for joining the podcast.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Anytime. That brings another episode of the Let's Get Podcast to a close. Again, I was thanking Alexander for being a guest on the podcast. For next week, I have my friend Kayel to speak about life at the college and sports. Hope you can tune in next day and hope to see you there.